Welcome back to Expertise Unleashed. I'm Brian.
And I'm Michelle.
And today we're going to be talking about turning your know-how, your gifts, your abilities, your talents into a scalable business, or building your business actually in 30 days.
Can you believe that? Quickly. We're talking momentum today. And the whole reason for that is you can actually get a business started in 30 days. And the reason we choose 30 days is we want to get some momentum going. Momentum actually matters. And in this particular episode, we're going to give you a blueprint on getting started in 30 days. We want it to be easy for you. We want it to be easy. We want you to be able to take that momentum and use it so that you can immediately see some results and you can get something happening fast.
Right. So whether you're the person that's, look, you've had an idea for years or months or even days, or, you're stuck and don't know what to do. You want to get off your 9 to 5, or you want to stay on your 9 to 5 and have extra income, whatever the case may be. This is a 4-week guide, to get you up and running, with actionable items, that can get you to where you want to be very, very quickly.
Right. And the key isn't really to build something that's perfect. It's really just to build something that's actually real.
And you can do it without it being so overwhelming. These things that we're going to share today, you could just do them on a weekly basis. And like I said, you're capable of more than what you know.
You are. And I think that the idea here too is we're going to show you how to make it so that it's lean, it's clear, it's actionable. And how about we just get started?
Let's jump in.
All right. So we're going to break this down into a 4-week plan. And with the 4 weeks, we want them to be actionable because Action Jackson. I don't know why I just said Action Jackson. I just kind of feel like you got to take action on things.
We showing our age again.
Are we?
Yeah, that's from the 80s.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So action packed this time. All right, so we're gonna break it down. 4 weekly sprints is what we want to get. So week number 1 is all around clarity and creation, right? So in that first week, it's really important that you know and you're able to identify what is it that I'm really good at and what problem can I solve. What am I really good at? And what problem can I solve? So y'all know with us, Expertise Unleashed, become the solution to someone's problem. So, but when you identify, what are those things that you're really good at? We've talked about, all of those different areas of expertise. You might be that content creator. You might be that smart virtual assistant type. You might be, someone who has skills in notary or all different types of things, social media management, whatever that thing is, what is it that you're good at? And then leveraging that to be able to solve a challenge for somebody. Because somebody else might really need some social presence because they've got a business and they're doing gangbusters. But the challenge that they run into is they're not doing they don't have a social media presence at all. That's a gap that you can fill. So if that's something you can do, identify what you're good at, and then what problem you can solve for somebody. All right. So the next part of that is being able to choose that side. Then you want to identify who that client is. Who's the person that you can help, Yeah.
And this is important because everybody doesn't need everything, So for example, everybody needs to eat. And so if everybody's been telling you, hey, listen, you make this very, very, very good chicken fettuccine. It's the best I've ever had. And people keep telling you that. Well, there may be something to that, but because everybody doesn't like fettuccine, you're going to need to market to people who like Italian food and who like that dish. So I said that to say you need to identify your ideal client. What do they like? How are you going to get your information or your food to them?
Right.
Should I say. So that's very, very critical, after you figure out, hey, this is the lane I'm going in. Now, how do I market to this specific market?
Right. But before we get to the marketing, because that's going to be in week 3, Week one, we're still identifying who is that client. And when we're thinking about that client, think about who's the person with the challenge, the problem, and then who can pay.
Mm.
Who can pay for that service that you can now provide? Now, Brad, you've got those. We've identified and classified groups of people who pay. You want to tell them about your your
I,
your classifications?
I gotta say it because one of my favorite people out there is Myron Golden,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that he impressed upon us is that you got three type of people. You got people who like free, which he calls freeple. You got people who like things cheap and they will only pay for cheap prices for things. Those are cheaple. And then you have your people who are people who will pay a premium for a very excellent product because of what they're going to get out of it. So you want to be able to target, you want to stay away from the freeples and the cheaples, and you want to target the preeples, the people who are willing to pay for an excellent product
Right. Who can pay?
or who can pay.
Yeah. So you identify the person and who can pay.
Because you can
Okay.
still pay, but you can still be free or cheap, and you don't want to do it. So,
Right. So you identify the people. All right. So then the next thing that you want to identify is what is your offer? What is it that you can provide? What is one clear offer that you can make? I help this person with this one thing in this way. Right. So in your example, Brian, you brought up the fettuccine, right? So you're a caterer or you're somebody who provides a food service. So I've got, so maybe your food service is targeted to people who work from home. DoorDash is a good one, right? So, but maybe you do catering or food service for people who work from home, and they are watching and minding their diets. So so you create a food service. Remember, we had Meals with Moo. Moo did the meals for us, and so you create a service to be able to provide those meals for a targeted work from home folks that don't necessarily want to, want to have meals available, but don't want to have to create them themselves. There's your product, there's your client, and there's your service that you're providing to them. All right. So also in there, you also want to decide on what is the price going to be, because that's important, right? Like how much is it going to cost you to get all the stuff and create? Remember, now we've talked about some businesses that you could do that have a low point of entry, but you do have to know how much is it going to cost me and then how much am I charging for it. That's important. And then the last thing is choose a business name and then get a domain and the social handles that are attached to it. Okay? So that's week number 1. You want to identify what you're good at, who it is that you are, who it is you're going to serve, the problem that you're going to solve, identify the client and how the ones who can pay for the service. Now you've created a price for it, an offer that you can make, a price for that offer, and then get the domain and handles so that you're able to now be able to stand that up. So that is week 1. You've got clear. You've created your business, your product or service that you're creating. So that is week number 1. And you don't want to overcomplicate it. Be very clear, not clever. Okay? Week 1's done. All right, Brian, you want to take them into week 2?
so week number 2, you want to establish your brand and your build out of that. So step number 1 in that is designing your logo and your color scheme. So we don't want you to get hung up on this. Just go out there, you got Fiverr, you got Upwork, you may know somebody who does graphic design and things like that. Just explain to them, because on week 1, you established what it is you're going to be doing. So somebody who's really, really good at it, you'll be able to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Create a logo for this, on the color scheme. Now, I did a little bit of research on color schemes and what appeals to certain people, and you can do a little bit of that. Just don't get hung up on it. I would say this, the first logo that you see that you really, really like, just jump on it and go with it, with the color scheme. Don't get hung up on that. You want to make sure that you have something that looks really good, that you like, that you feel comfortable with, and then you can just move out in that. So like I said, we don't want to have any analysis paralysis, because you'll be here next year still trying to figure out a logo and a color scheme, and we just really don't want you to do that. We want to get you up and running in this 30 days.
Right.
And then you want to write your bio and your brand story. That's the next thing. What's going to appeal to people about you. What's your story. What's your unique factor. In all of these things. When you're looking to to put yourself out there to people. So that's very, very critical. Why you? Why now? Why
Right.
are you the one that I need to use for my catering business or my cleaning business or from a mobile notary? How are you differentiating yourself from others? Differentiating yourself from others. Why should I choose you? So that is very, very critical as well.
Right. You know what? And that's one of those things that is important. The unique factor is really what makes the difference. It's people if they vibe with you, right? Like, like are they rocking with you? It's something about you because you are the selling point of your brand. And so, as authentic as you can be, as real as you can be, that's how people build that know and that like and that trust. I think that's what people like about it.
And I'll say this too. In your story, as you begin to evolve, the more value and expertise you can provide, the more people you'll be able to hook in. Especially after proof of concept, which is down the line.
Yeah.
For a lot of these people. But for now, just make sure you have a compelling story. Make sure you're giving the people a reason to tune in. To you. Whatever your unique factor is. The next thing you need to do is build a basic website or a landing page. So you have Wix out there. You have a ton of other ways you can build a website. Now, I will say this. You want your look to be clean on the websites. You know, don't put pictures on there that are muddy. We've seen this. And we've talked to people about this. You want everything to be clear, and you want your images, to be crisp and all of those things. So you may take a little bit of time on this on your website and your landing page, but what should be clear about your website and your landing page is the information that's on there. It should be clear and relatable and easily understandable, so people don't have to use a ton of brain resources, to understand what you are saying.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I think what's really key with that too, kind of to your point is, again, we're talking about keep it clear. We're starting in 30 days. So we don't want you to get hung up because you don't have a ton of great professional pictures or you haven't done a lot of work. Sometimes start with what you do have and sometimes use stock photos, initially. And I would say, use the very best that you do have to offer when you're building your brand, because part of that is the authenticity is of you, right? Like, it's okay to be yourself. Like, even when we're doing these podcasts, like, we're not perfect with it. Like, this is the first time that we've done a podcast together. And so we're experiencing it. You guys are experiencing this with us, right? So I think it's important that people know that it's not going to be perfect. You're not being the perfect person, but you are letting people know, hey, authentically, the reason why you got started as part of your story, and you're sharing your information, and you want people need a place to be able to access you. So whatever that access point is, keep it clear, keep it clean, but they got to have a point of entry to get involved with you.
Okay. Yeah. And the next thing is you have to set up payment processing. There's no point in doing all of this stuff and getting clients in and they don't have a way to pay you, or they're scuffling to pay you. You have to catch up with the times. There are a lot of different tools out there. You got Stripe, you got Square, there are other things that you can set up, but you have to have payment processing. And then right after that, you have to be able to way to do emails, and so you need to set that up. Again, there are a lot of different ways to do emails out there because you're going to have to send your messaging out, and emails is probably the fastest way to do it, outside of social media, and probably the more accepted way to do it for outside of social media for getting information out and collecting information.
Right. And you know what? Really, you do. I like that because, like emailing people, you can't email somebody on their social media. They have to, you want them to come to your email list, right? Like that's how you can stay in contact with people. That's part of your audience building. And you want people to know when you've got something going on, you've got something new that you might be launching. Like I like email. Email is still the best form of communicating with people who are interested in working with you or knowing what you got going on. Email's still the best way to do it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, long term for sure. So if you get to the point where you have an email list of 1,000 or more, you always have a pool of people, that you can reach out to for your products. If you're rolling something new out, if you have something different you want to say or
Mm-hmm.
messaging, you always have that amount of people, at least that you have, that know you, that you can communicate with. So that completes week number 2.
Right.
So let's roll into
You know
week
what?
number.
You didn't even tell them about your MVP. What about the MVP, Brian?
Oh yeah, you want to have so all this will help you create a minimum of valuable presence.
Yeah.
Because you have to start somewhere. We understood when we started, like people knew us, but we understood when we started a podcast. Really, not that many people knew us outside of our own circle, and so we had to start here, and we're still learning and growing. But now what we have created for ourselves with this and with our social and with our emails and automation and all those things, we at least have a minimum valuable presence, out there. So, people can begin to know who we are, and then we can build on that base to use us for an example. So you just want to have that MVP.
Right. They thought you was gonna say minimum viable product, but you said minimum viable present,
Yeah,
valuable
minimum
present.
valuable presence.
Yeah,
You have to start somewhere. The
I
Bible
like it.
says, do not despise small beginnings.
Yeah, you
So
said
we're not going to do that.
no.
We're going to think forward.
Absolutely. All right. So the week number 3 is when you start to market and grow. And this is the part that sometimes is a little challenging for people because it's, you can find out what it is that you do, your lane. Then you can get into, okay, I've got my presence out there. But now it's like, okay, I've got to really show up. And sometimes that gets hard for people. People are uncomfortable being forward facing or promoting themselves. Even as publishers, we've worked with lots of authors and, especially a lot of first time authors, and they get real uncomfortable when that book comes out. It's like, ooh, I don't. I'm a little uncomfortable telling people about myself or that I got this book out, but you wrote the book so that you could help people or share a story, but there's that discomfort. And so this is the part that you got to get over. You almost got to take the Kim Kardashian method where it's like just put it out there and that's it. You just put it out there and you let it go. So, one of the things that you want to do, so as part of that market and grow week 3, you want to think in terms of I'm going to have 3 content pillars and I'm going to post 3 times a week. And when you think about the 3 content pillars, those are like 3 types of things that you're going to talk about whenever you're talking. This might be, hey, I'm going to talk about what people enjoy about take the caterer as an example. What the people enjoy about the type of food that I prepare and why you prepare it. Another pillar might be testimonials and how customers have enjoyed it. And then the other might be, how food helps the body, what it does for the body. Those might be your 3 content pillars, but then you're going to post 3 times a week, one time talking about each of those in those 3 different content pillars. So that's what you want to do. 3 think it minimum 3 content pillars 3 times a week. The other thing that you want to do is join a group, a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group where your audience is so that they even know. So these posts actually go to some places where people are that might be interested in what it is that you're doing. The other thing that you want to do is reach out to people and let them know, hey, people that's on your email list, for example, that know you and know that you, and now that you're doing this offer that you now have available, tell them about it. Get them interested in it. It might be past clients or people that you've either served before in this kind of way. They may be interested now in knowing that you've got an offer that you're making available. I know one thing that I did, because when we were publishing, I had not coached people in the book writing process. But I was challenged by a coach and said, you know what? Hey, I want Michelle, go make 10,000. It was a $10,000 in a week challenge in 7 days. See if you can create $10,000. I was like, what? But it was all of us, and we were all a part of that group. And so we had this, it was like, and what she said was, hey, go and see if there's anybody, think of a way that you could help, create the offer. And so I said, you know what? I hadn't coached anybody in writing a book. I've helped people do it all the time, but I hadn't made an offer in it. So I made an offer, and I sent the offer to people on my email list. Just said, hey, I've just created an opportunity where I'm gonna actually coach people for 6 weeks on getting their books written. If you would be interested or know somebody that is, let me know. It's going to be $700, but at the end of the 6 weeks, your book will be finished, and it'll be a good book, and it'll sell. And I had people that actually signed up to do it, and I was like, "What?" I hadn't even thought about it, and I had people that have they referred people to do it. So, if you will be surprised that what you have within you, if you make it available, people actually might even be interested in it.
So what you're saying is, you have everybody has or most people have an inner circle and an outer circle. Your inner circle being your family and your close friends, and your outer circle being, friends, more acquaintances, but that know you, what you do, and would be able to recommend you. Both of them would be able to recommend you.
Absolutely.
It's sort of like the disciples. There was 12 disciples, but Peter, James, and John were with Jesus more than anybody. And then there was John, the one that he loved, who's the one who put his head on Jesus' chest. So everybody has that. You have your inner circle, and you have your outer circle. So please take advantage of that.
But people need to see your face. They need to hear your voice. They need to be able to talk to you and understand what it is that you do. So visibility builds that credibility. So you want to make sure that you are marketing yourself so that you can grow. So that is week number 3, complete.
Okay, week number 4, you do have to sell and finally launch. You want to make your first sale, and get feedback, by the time week number 4 is finished. So reach out to leads directly, whether you DM, whether you email, or whether you text, reach out to leads. It's not, I'm going to say this, it's probably not as difficult as people think to get that first sale. And you're going to feel so good. You're going to get a good dopamine rush, that will just push you and encourage you to continue to do it. You want to offer a beta version or discounted rate, for your testimonials and your services. So talk a little bit about the beta, because that might be a different concept for people, to
Yeah. So all right, so check it out. So remember, I did a beta group with with my first course that we did. And essentially I just said, hey y'all, I am getting ready to do a digital course, and I need some people to actually tell me if the content is good. So I need you guys to roll with me for, like, I did it. It was 8 weeks. We did 8 weeks at the same time. If I could have an hour of your time, come in with me on 1 hour, 8 weeks. And I just asked some people. I picked some people that I knew could actually use it, use the content, that it would be good for them, and then that they would be fine, because that was part of the agreement too. Hey, after we do this, I'm gonna want you to tell me if it's good. I'm gonna want you to share it if it is, and all that. And so they agreed, and that was like my first time doing an actual course. Had people in it who was able to provide me feedback, one, also a class, and then we were able to video record it and then able to use it to put and make available for other people. And so it works. You have people so now you got built-in testimonials because some people used it, and then you also had a group of people to give you instantaneous feedback. So if you needed to tighten, I was able to tighten up stuff in there, using the feedback that they gave. But it's a great model.
Okay. And then, you want to create urgency and get feedback. And creating urgency, what I mean by that is, hey, this is a limited time offer. We're only taking this amount of people. Hey, listen, for the first 5 or 10 people that subscribe to this or do this offer or launch, we're going to provide this for you, a product or a service. We're going to do this for you. So you want to create urgency, and then you want to collect feedback, from the first clients you get, or you get that first one. Hey, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What did you like about this? What about this appealed to you? That I may be able to, that we can, kind of build on that experience, and expand out, so feedback every step of the way is good. And I think you called it actually feed forward because you can actually take, what the feedback is, and that does help you, in planning moving forward. So Michelle likes to say feed forward. So I'll say feed forward because that's exactly really what it is, more so than feedback, and then you always absolutely 100% want to celebrate the small wins. So even after your first week and you get that done, have a little celebration. After you do the second week, have a little celebration. After you do the third week, have a little celebration. But definitely after you get your first sale, go get yourself a little cupcake or a piece of cheesecake, and put a little candle on it, and blow the candle out yourself, and celebrate yourself for the small wins. Like I said, because this will be very, very big for you, and saying, hey, I can actually do this, and that's exactly where we want you to be. And so that concludes week 4. Mm-hmm. And I do want to say this too. This is not about going viral. It's about being valuable. Yeah. When you become valuable, you will go viral. Absolutely. Because you'll start setting up things and things will come to you. You will go viral, but be valuable first. Be an expert, give people value, and the rest will follow.
No, that's it. That's it for real. All right. So we're going to give you 3 quick power tips and then we are going to wrap up the show for today. Power tip number 1, done is better than perfect. Launch fast, tweak later. Launch fast, tweak later. Just get it out there. All right. So tip number 2, keep your offer simple and repeatable. Like if you can do it over and over and over again, it makes it that much easier. And so that way you're not consuming time coming up with something different every time, trying to create some custom project every time. Don't do that. And then 3, don't build alone. Find an accountability buddy. Get somebody to help you that's going to say, hey, I see you. Tell them what it is that you're working on so that you can actually make sure that you're getting the things done. And that is it. Your business built. 4 weeks and it's done. 30 days, y'all. 0 to launch in 30 days. This is the roadmap. And guess what? We have a actual roadmap in the link in the description. So this 4-week launch plan we've got ready for you. You can have it. Just download it today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Hit a like, give us a comment, and until next time, I'm going to kick it to Brian.
Some people are meant to create a small business. Some people are meant to create a large business. And some people are meant to create empires. Which one are you?